Welcome back to my Pokémon Emerald Hardcore Nuzlocke walkthrough. In the last episode, we absolutely demolished Tate and Liza for our 7th gym badge. Really glad that our starter can now finally start to shine. We also quickly breezed through all the heavy story related stuff, and now we're getting ready to face off against the final gym leader in Juan. The road from Gen 3 Casual to Emerald Master continues. Let's do this. Before I am able to face Juan, I have some grinding to do, and some preparations to make for my strategy. While I work through the grind, I've gotten a few comments throughout a few of my videos asking about damage calculations and how I perform them. So allow me to give you a little quick rundown of how I do this for my boss fight prep, and just what my overall thought process is. I won't go over every little detail that I've done to prepare for Juan, but this is essentially how I go about strategizing personally for any boss fight. First, I'll look at the enemy's team and compare them to some of the main Pokemon I plan on using. I use damage calculations very loosely. I don't bother going through every single scenario on every single Pokemon in the fight. The goal is to quickly gain a rough understanding of how hard my Pokemon can hit and how hard the enemy's Pokemon can hit, and that's it. So, I take a quick look at Juan's team and I see the Pokemon, I see the typings, movesets, abilities, and items. Now, I'm already super familiar with most of this information myself, so this step for me is usually fairly quick. I already know what types Whiscash is weak to, for example. I already know what Double Team and Rest do on his Kingdra, I already know what a Chesto Berry does, and I already have a general understanding of what the stat distribution looks like on each of these Pokemon. I don't have exact numbers, but I have a rough idea. If you don't have this knowledge though, opening these links up in a new tab and getting a quick understanding of these aspects is a good idea if you have the time. Now I look at what I've got, and the first one I'm looking at is of course my Sceptile. Since I know with 100% certainty that I'm going to lean on Sceptile heavily in this fight, I'll use him as an example for my damage calculation examples. Pokemon Showdown's damage calculator is absolutely ridiculous, and I'll leave a link for that in the description. Quick point of order though before I begin, do not let this screen stress you out. There is a whole lot of fucking shit here. You can basically calculate how an entire battle will go, right down to the absolute smallest of details. But you don't need all of this. In fact, you only need a small fraction of this amazing tool in order to grab some very valuable information out of it. First things first, let's add our Pokemon on the left side and the first enemy Pokemon on the right side, along with their levels. When you do this, you'll see a bunch of preset options that appear for each Pokemon that you select from the dropdown. You can ignore all of these and simply select blank set. So now that we have our matchup, it's time to add some moves to each one to see what each side is capable of damage. And now we can see our results. So in this top pane here, you'll get these percentages listed next to each move on both sides. This is roughly the percentage of health that the move would deal in damage. In this example, Sceptile's Leaf Blade will take out 150 to 177% of Luvdisc's HP, which means it will always kill in one hit. Meanwhile, Luvdisc's Water Pulse will not deal more than 7% of my HP, which is good to know. Some extra notes on the damage calculator. You can check speed stats to see who goes first. That is often very valuable to know. Only applying natures if the percentage value is very close to killing either your Pokemon or the enemy. Otherwise, don't worry too much about the natures. You can click this crit button next to each move to see how much damage that would do, which is also very helpful. Some moves may require some extra adjustments, like Flail's damage, for example, is increased when a Pokemon's HP is lower. So you can just go over here and adjust the current HP value to whatever you are currently seeing in your battle. There is a whole lot here that you can play around with if you want to, but if you don't, that's okay too. Just stick to adding the Pokemon, the moves, and taking a look at the results. The numbers won't be exact, but the amount of value you get from this tool just to get a rough idea is really great. And again, I do not do this for every single Pokemon necessarily. It's usually just the ones I'm worried about personally. But like I said, if you've got the time and it helps you to do that, then go for it. After doing some of these general damage calculations on the Pokemon I want to look into, I then have to start thinking about how to construct my team, plus the order in which Juan's Pokemon will come out, etc. The case where I lead with Sceptile, I can most likely expect either Juan's Celio or Kingdra due to their ice coverage. If you were on the damage calculations on Celio, Leaf Blade does not kill unfortunately, only dealing roughly 90% of Celio's health in damage. But, and this is where more and more experience with the game mechanics allows you to think outside the box a little bit, if I intentionally bring Sceptile to the fight with less than 30% of his HP, his Overgrow ability goes into effect, and in that case, Leaf Blade is a guaranteed one-hit KO on Celio. Is that the plan I'm going to go with? Maybe, but not necessarily. Because what if his Kingdra comes out next? Or what if I want the extra HP on Sceptile for later so I can switch him into Whiscash at some point or even Crawdon? These are all questions that pop into my head when I'm making preparations. Maybe I should just make an unscripted video where I talk through my entire process, step by step, and maybe that would make things even clearer. Or more complicated, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I think I'll make a separate video on damage calculations at the very least anyway at some point in the future, but I hope this quick tutorial was helpful. With all of that being said, let me wrap up this grind and finish the rest of my preparations, and then we can go over the team. And here we are, full team of 6 at the level cap. 3 grass types and an electric type will definitely help us, with every Pokemon on this roster except for Crobat having a resistance to water. Starting with Breloom, I decided to go with the high risk, high reward approach to start the fight off. See, the biggest issue I'll have with Juan is his Kingdra, as it typically sets up with double team before sweeping your entire team with Water Pulse and Ice Beam. Luckily for me, as I just mentioned, I have a bunch of Pokemon on this squad that can resist water and ice fairly well. So with Breloom, my goal is to try to one-shot the Love Disc, then one-shot the Celio if that happens to be what comes out next, and then attempt to Leech Seed his Kingdra, who will inevitably come out after that point, since it will want to Ice Beam my Breloom into oblivion. Kingdra could theoretically come out sooner, and that's fine. It doesn't really change the overall strategy. What makes this risky is that I have to use Sky Uppercut in order to one-shot both Love Disc and Celio, and this move is only 90% accurate. And speaking of 90% accurate, that goes for Leech Seed as well. So a lot could go wrong here. Luckily, if this plan does completely fail, I have a lot of other ways to get back into the fight safely. We'll see how things unfold, but if I could get Leech Seed off on Kingdra, it would be game over for Juan. Next up is Ludicolo, who is bulky as all hell and comes with that incredible water grass typing. If things go wrong with my Breloom, Ludicolo would become a huge part of the backup strategy. I gave it a few PP ups to get that Giga Drain usage up, and it should be able to stall Kingdra out pretty well. If I have to resort to that, draining Kingdra's Ice Beam PP will be the way to go, as if Kingdra runs out of Ice Beams, it will be very difficult for it to take out anything on my team with just Water Pulse. It's also worth mentioning that Ludicolo is also holding a Lepa Berry for even more Giga Drains if I need them, which I might, considering I could have to use a bunch of them to get through those double teams that Kingdra might use. Every other team member is using a Citrus Berry for extra healing. I'm so glad that Sceptile is finally here and worth using. Sceptile can stand toe-to-toe with every single one of Juan's Pokemon other than Kingdra with Ice Beam. But if I can stall out that Ice Beam, then all of a sudden Sceptile has a much more favorable matchup, especially since I also gave him Aerial Ace, so he'll never miss even with all those double teams being up. He'll be used to take out Whiscash for sure as he resists all of his attacks, and perhaps even Crawdon as well. Manectric is up next, and I brought him because he's an electric type and this is a water gym. Not really much else to say, although it is really good to know that he is theoretically capable of two-shotting Kingdra with Thunders if I have to go for a Hail Mary play. I probably won't use Thunder Wave because Kingdra can just use Rest to remove it. Gyarados will definitely be used if I need the backup plan to help stall out Kingdra's Ice Beam PP. I'll try to get in an Earthquake here and there as well if that makes sense. Finally, we have Crobat, who is the backup to the backups. Confuse Ray is useful, and so is Shadow Ball if I can get the special defense drop to help the others out. I think that's everything. Just one more badge left. Let's do this. I lead with Breloom and of course immediately implement my primary strategy. One 90% roll down, 2 to go. Celio ends up coming out next and another Sky Uppercut hits. So far so good. Now for his ace, Kingdra. He goes for the double team first, but it doesn't matter. Leech Seed hits regardless, and we are in incredible shape right now. Wow, I am so glad that ended up working out. With Ludicolo now in, we begin stalling until a combination of Leech Seed and direct attacks can bring Kingdra down. This process took an extremely long time. I basically went through all of Ludicolo's Ice Beam PP twice, all of his Giga Drain PP, all of Kingdra's Rest PP, and most of his Ice Beam as well. I actually had to switch Ludicolo out for a combination of my other Pokemon because I ran out of moves to use outside of Surf. But eventually, Kingdra finally gets taken out by Manectric, and the worst of it is now over. The remaining Pokemon are just cleanup duty for Sceptile. After a pointless Rain Dance from Whiscash and a couple of Leaf Blades later, Juan is finished, as well as our gym challenge. With the 8th badge in our hands, we're quickly approaching the end of the game, and I can't wait to take on the Pokemon League with this squad. And with that, this episode is now over. In the next episode, we'll pick up whatever items we have missed, take on Wally, and travel through Victory Road. In the meantime, as usual, please like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more content like this. And let me know if you're liking this series, and if you would like to see me do more of them in the future. That's it for me. I'll see you next time.